This is episode 136, Red Leaf Retrocast. Boys, it's been a month.
Yep. A lot has happened.
Well, what's happened, Colin? Enlighten me. Feeling better?
Well, it's been pretty packed month since the last cast for me. I mean, I went to Alberta with my family for a week, and we did a whole lot of stuff. I mean, we went to the West Edmonton Mall on the first day, did the water park and Lego store. My nephews were having an absolute blast. And we visited my Oma a few times over the course of the week. Mm-hmm. We drove up to my aunt and uncle's farm in Nearlandia. We stayed there a few days, shot some pellet guns, rode a speedboat on the Athabasca River to get some dead beavers out of traps.
Oh, God.
Yep. And then later my uncle skinned them. And then we rode some e-bikes. And I have got to get me one of those. And my 6-year-old nephew, he drove an ATV all by himself. He even took a bunch of us for rides around the farm. So that was history in the making right there.
Hey. You do anything special for Victoria Day?
Nah.
Not this year?
I mean, I may or may not go down to the beach to see fireworks. I don't know. Not really. I don't really give a crap because it's a day off from work anyway. With or without the holiday.
Yeah, our holiday is the following Monday, so.
Yeah. I should say for the Alberta trip, my own plane trips to and from Alberta were adventures in and of themselves. It's like everyone else is taking planes out of Kitchener Airport, but I flew out of Pearson.
Mm-hmm, yep.
It's like,
did you fly Air Canada or WestJet?
Air Canada.
Ugh, what a mistake. That's why you had drama.
Yeah, the real drama was because my brother and sister-in-law had booked with Flair, but
what the fuck is a Flare?
It's like one of those low cost airlines.
Ugh,
like
sounds
Swoop.
Dangerous.
Yeah, they ended up having some of their aircraft repossessed, so my brother and sister-in-law had their flights canceled. So, but they got full refunds.
I'm sorry, folks. You can't fly out. The plane has been taken back. What?
Yep. Yeah. So they ended up having to book a flight 2 days later than we were expecting.
Oh man, that's a new one. I hadn't heard that yet.
Yeah. Yeah. As a result, our plans to go to Calgary fell through, but I still had a flight booked out of Calgary. So, but I'll get to that in a bit. It's like the flight I booked to get to Edmonton left at 7 in the mornings, so I had to be up super early. But the real fun started when I landed. It's like I wound up taking an express bus from the airport to an LRT station, which is like light rail transit for those at home. And then I took that train all the way to the northern end of Edmonton where the hotel was located. And then from that station, made a 15-minute walk from the station to the hotel. And then, at the end of the trip, getting home, I had to take a bus down to Calgary. And then the bus station I wound up at turned out to be in some sketchy back alley suburban neighborhood at 10 at night. So you can imagine I was just a little nervous being there with a big backpack and a huge suitcase. So I had to make like a 20-minute walk through there to a bus stop that would take me to the airport. There were some very steep hills I had to climb. But luckily I wasn't mugged. Then I made it to the airport without a hitch, but since this was the night before my flight, which was supposed to leave at 10 a.m., I couldn't check my bags in yet. And I didn't want to pay for a hotel, so I just slept in the airport lobby.
Oh, I've been there. Been there a few times.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Of course, it's more of the I can't afford the hotel. I have to stay in the airport. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to one of my cousins during the trip, and he had pointed out that some airports don't allow people to sleep there. So check with the staff first. But I made sure to arrange things so I would know if someone tried to swipe my stuff while I slept.
Well, you just sleep in the chair, then no one questions you.
Yeah, but what if somebody tries to grab something out of my bag while I'm asleep? Just like swipe something.
Lock it to yourself, brother.
That is more or less what I did.
Yeah.
I looped my backpack straps around the rolled up towel I was using as a pillow, and then I made sure my suitcase was touching my arm the whole time. So in those kind of situations, I'm a light sleeper. So if anybody grabs something of mine, I'm gonna feel it. Then I'll grab them and throw them to the ground.
That still reminds me of the story when I was on a train going from Budapest to Timișoara, Romania, and a gypsy woman tried to steal the bag right out of my arms, and she was complaining that it was actually hers.
Yeah.
Bold move.
Yeah, nice try.
Yeah, it's like when you fart in an elevator and there's just another guy in there, you go, it was you.
Yeah. But yeah, after that whole thing, I got breakfast at Tim's, got on my flight, and everything went smoothly from there. So, all in all, a good trip.
Good. Happy to hear it. I got Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom.
Nice, nice.
I've been playing the hell out of that. It's the comparison I've been making to myself as I continue to play it. I mean, the game's astounding. First of all, I can't imagine anything beating it for Game of the Year at this point in time. The comparison I've been making is more or less the success that Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask had for the N64. Because, Majora's Mask was basically made because of the engine and format and everything Ocarina of Time had, and they just did a bunch of unique things to make it a different game. Well, Tears of the Kingdom is more or less Breath of the Wild, but now you got this epic building mechanic that they want to incorporate into the game, right?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then the other comparison I made, because of the way the story plays out and how the world exists, it's like, was this their idea for Skyward Sword, and then now they just made it good?
That's what I was wondering.
Because you're in the sky world, you have to use gliders and all this other stuff. There's the lower world, all kinds of things going on. You have an epic demon king to fight. I'm like, okay, this is all very different than Breath of the Wild, and in the similar vein, that reminds me a lot of just the world of Skyward Sword. It's of course not like that game at all, other than the layout. But the game's fantastic. I love even just the start of the game, where Zelda is this like history nerd. She's nerding out over these things, and it immediately immerses yourself in this, in essentially the plot of the game, and it has an epic sort of storied intro, which I kind of wasn't expecting. Because you remember Breath of the Wild, you kind of start off in a cave and then you immerse yourself out of it, and then you're introduced to the world. This kind of builds off that more into showing you the world through the story, and then because you've already done that part before with Breath of the Wild, so why would they do it again? I see the idea being, let's do something more cinematic to it all, which is very un-Zelda-like. Know what I mean?
I guess so.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the fighting mechanics is, I mean, it's Breath of the Wild with an upgrade in a just heavily introduced extra mechanic that you could do I mean, I've just been following just Twitter accounts and people posting online of just the wacky contraptions they've made. And obviously the funniest thing, the elephant in the room, is the Korok murder spree everyone's on. The torture devices people have made to try to kill these things is hilarious.
No.
Yeah. Joey, have you seen any of this?
No.
Okay. So if you just go on Twitter or Instagram or something, people post the contraptions made to just kill these things. Because these whole side little quest missions is these Korok creatures of the world. You find them and they're like, oh, bring me to my friend. So you have to kind of escort them to their friend and you get extra shit. But people, within the first weekend, people are so annoyed by them already. They're like, oh, building mechanic. I can make a Pope-mobile with a cross and hang them on the cross and light it on fire as we're going to see his friend. Very funny. There's a million of them. I've been posting in our Discord for the past well over a week over just the wacky things people have made. Someone made a fucking spider vehicle. People are making mechs in the game to go across the world and destroy just enemies. Someone's made the 3-tier rocket spaceship, and then so it'll launch them way into the air, and then they just unlock the glider, and it'll take them across the world instead of fast travel, which fast travel does exist just like in Breath of the Wild, but now you can traverse the world that way. It's super interesting. I don't know how they really pulled it off, and how well it works through everything. It's very easy for even a child to figure it out. I say child, someone who can get the concept of putting things together to go from point A to point B, essentially. So whatever age that might be for somebody. And then just adults like us just trying to do wacky and crazy things. It's very fun. I have nothing but good things to say about it. It's a phenomenal game. It's an accomplishment. Highly recommend it. Shouldn't come as a shock, I suppose.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
I actually managed to snag a copy myself. I just haven't gotten around to playing it. Just wanted to make sure I actually had it before it goes poof in stores.
Well, I mean, the big thing that I had to go through was just the release of it all. So this wasn't just apparently to GameStop in how they were doing the midnight release. It also, at least in the Rhode Island area I'm in, it also had to do with Best Buy or anything, but we'll stick with GameStop because I like this one store. They got a new manager. And this woman, I can best describe as lazy bitch.
Oh, no. So
the guy that I've known there basically since I got this one job, and I go to this GameStop, he calls me up on Wednesday, Wednesday morning, and I couldn't answer it. I was at work. He leaves me a message, and he goes, "Hey, we're doing a midnight release tomorrow on Thursday at midnight, going into Friday, and you can pay the rest of your receipt, and we'll give you, and that will get you into the midnight release. Otherwise, you have to come in Friday afternoon or whatever." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right, that'll be cool. Midnight release. I'll play an hour and then go to work on Friday morning. No big deal. I'll show up at 7 instead of fucking 6 a.m. So I go there after work. I pay the bill. Then he informs me, "Oh, we were just informed that you have to come back tomorrow on Thursday between the hours of 3 and 7. And you'll present your fully paid receipt and we'll put a sticker on it, and that will get you access to the midnight release."
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, why does there need to be a sticker? I have the whole receipt. I've pre-ordered the game. You should have enough copies, should you not? And he goes, I don't know. It's something from corporate. It's also something from the manager that you have to have this specific sticker. I'm like, I don't
jeez.
I don't get it. So I have to come back during these oddly specific hours to get the game I already paid for.
That's bullshit.
So that was bullshit. I'm like, you're making me jump through multiple hoops for the privilege of getting the game I've already paid for.
That's dumb.
Very dumb. So the other part of the message was, for the midnight release, come at 10 o'clock and there'll be food and there'll be like trivia and there'll be some prizes we're hanging out. It'll be a big like Zelda thing. And I'm like, okay, when I lived in Toronto, I went to a couple releases like that and that was a lot of fun. The biggest one was the PlayStation VR and the Nintendo Switch, right? Huge like celebration, multiple hours. If you paid for it beforehand, you got in. You could essentially just play everything with other people before the release, and you get your own copy. So I figured, so it's going to be a big group. We're all going to play Zelda before the release. So, just something in my head. There'll be trivia, all kinds of things. Okay, I'll show up at like 10:30. I'll get there fashionably late. And the guy assured me, he's like, oh yeah, there's going to be trivia and all this. Well, I get there at 10:30. There's a bunch of people just like hanging out in the parking lot. A few people drinking. And we're not allowed into the store. And I'm like, what's going on? There was supposed to be... So I knock on the window to the store, and I'm going, what the fuck's happening here? There was supposed to be like trivia and everything. He goes, I know, but the manager doesn't want to do it. Or she goes, we're not equipped for it, and it's after hours. He was just, the point is, it wasn't happening. So I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh, no.
You're telling me now I have to essentially wait out here for another hour and a half with nothing to show? Like, what was the point of all this? So what ended up happening was the woman comes out, and she has all the prizes, and she just hands it out to the random people in the parking lot.
What?
Yeah.
What?
She just goes, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go.
What'd you get?
I got a like Zelda sports arm sleeve. So when I could use it golfing so I don't pull my elbow or something. I don't know. Yeah. It's supposed to mimic his like mangled arm in the game. Anyways, so midnight. So I'm like watching TV in my car. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. I hate this. But I'm already like here. It takes me 20 minutes to go home. It'd be 40 minutes. All right. By the time that happens, it's time to get back in line. So I'm here no matter what. So that sucks. So just before midnight, we're allowed in the store. I'm second in line, and I get the manager to hand me the game. And I presented my receipt, and she goes, I hope you enjoy the game. And as I take the game, and I show her the receipt, and I go, so what happened to all the trivia and everything we were promised? And the Zelda night? And she goes, sir, just take your game. I go, just tell me you didn't want to do it and you were lazy. Just tell me you didn't want to do your job. And she was about to like take the game back because she was mad, but I had already had it. And I was like, aha! Now I can say whatever I want to your bitch ass. So she doesn't take the game back. So she was very cross with everything I had to say. And no. So I reported her to corporate. Absolutely. I did a carrot thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, leave a Google review or something.
No, I did the angry like corporate review, and I'm like, I'm going to send this to manager to corporate because you made all of us sit out here for 2 hours with you didn't promise, you didn't do what you promised. You didn't do what was advertised.
Deliver.
You didn't deliver. You didn't do anything. So.
And why? Because you didn't want to.
Right. She just didn't want to. She just sat in the store, got paid on the clock to sit on her phone for 2 hours in the air conditioning, and while we had to sit on fucking concrete outside.
Yeah, that is horseshit.
Yeah, so I think that's a justified Karen moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should write a Reddit story.
Well, it's on the podcast now. We got audio. So there you go. Rhode Island GameStop. Lazy bitch works there. Fuck her.
Yeah, fuck her.
Yeah. Joey, what you been up to?
Well, besides laying floor down in a different bedroom.
Sure. Much easier the second time, I imagine.
It is. And this room is a lot smaller than the master bedroom, so everything just worked out nicely. The only difficult was that it's just slightly longer than 3 pieces of board, so I'd have to cut the first one just so it wouldn't have a giant gap.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, this was way easier than the first room. But I played in the first one because I felt like the side missions weren't as annoying.
I'm sorry, Joe, I didn't hear that part. What was the game you were playing?
Miles Morales.
Oh, okay. The
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. I think it was better than the first one.
Really?
Yeah, because this way I didn't have to go each section. I didn't have to take care of 5 crime. Like, I could just go to the app and look up the crime that I needed to complete just to get it done. I didn't have to, like, sit and wait for something to happen near me.
Okay.
So I just thought the game flowed better. So, and I like Miles better. So,
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It's much shorter, correct? Because it's like a half game kind of situation.
yeah, it's not as long as the first game.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it's like a DLC.
Right.
But it was nice. I mean, the story was decent enough. So, I didn't mind it.
So you feel satisfied for the price of admission?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't pay full price. So,
Okay.
I mean, if I pay full price, maybe I'll be upset, but
yeah. Funny you we're talking about this topic. There's a couple kids, and I say kids, they're like, between 18 and 21. There's quite a few of them that were just hired at the plant. And like the plant knows I'm big into video games, playing blah, blah, blah. So they start talking to me, and one of them now works, or 2 of them now works directly under me. Like they're part of my minions. I have my own minions now.
Nice.
Yeah, supervisor perks. So they start talking about what fucking game were they talking about? It wasn't Call of Duty, but it was some shooter.
Modern Warfare?
No, I want to say it was Battlefield or something, but the point is, they were discussing the bullshittery, as they said. That was their word. The bullshittery of. They were talking about the length of the game, and how they only got like 35 hours out of it or something.
Oh no.
And they look at me for like affirmation. They go, "That's not long enough to justify $60, right?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
That's plenty long. You
I'm
get
like
10, 15 hours. That's $60 right there.
I'm like, dude, if you give me like an excellent game that is even only like 6 hours, then think about it this way: you will pay $60 for I guess like a concert ticket, or to be in the nosebleeds, and the concert's like a couple hours, right? Maybe it's 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I went to Coheed, it was 60 after fees, and it was standing room only, so the cheapest tickets.
And how long was the concert?
Probably about 2-3 hours.
Okay, so there you go. 2 to 3 hours. You paid $60. Okay, so if you get a video game, you got even let's say for the sake of 1-to-1 ratio, you got 3 hours out of the game. Okay, but goddamn it, you enjoyed it. You're like, it's kind of short. You feel that way, of course, but fuck, I'm gonna play it again. And you play it because you remember a lot of games used to only be like 3 hours, especially when you got good at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though in a lot of cases, you had to spend dozens upon dozens of hours just to get good enough to beat it.
Right, but if you look up like videos and you are that good, I mean, fucking like Ninja Gaiden could take you maybe an hour. But just for the sake of argument in a 1-to-1, I was like, guys, I don't agree with it. Like, I'm a guy, if I play a game for like 2 hours and I paid $50, $60, and I really enjoyed it, maybe I just don't have the time I used to, I'm satisfied. And the more I play it, the more it's like, to me, the more it's like free money, right? I'm satisfied with my minimum amount of time, so I'm going to keep playing the game, and I don't feel cheated. That's just how I kind of look at it now. So for example, it all, you know what, I do remember it all started because I said I got Zelda, and they're like, oh, it's only like 40 hours, and then they started comparing it to a shooter.
That's so fucking long.
And I'm like, this game is going to take me just months to beat. Are you kidding me?
40 hours, Jesus.
Yeah, and it's like, it was $70, and I go, that's, I mean, we've talked about on this podcast in the past that we're kind of shocked games aren't like $100 these days because of inflation and the cost to make these games. But the fascinating now, is there an argument that like digital games should be cheaper because of the distribution ease and all that kind of stuff? Well, yeah, I do agree with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just found it pretty fascinating that the conversation around the younger crowd these days is if a game's like not 60 to 100 hours, then they feel cheated out of the price. And maybe that's why there's a clear like online purpose to a lot of these games that are being made, to extend those hours rather than the game itself. Just the repeatability of play gets you to that 100. Obviously, to do that, that's where microtransactions comes in, and to keep the servers going, blah blah blah. We can talk about all that corporate stuff, but I found that fascinating.
Well, yeah, with all that stuff, because the other game I got back into Forbidden West, so I've been playing that this last week or so.
Mm-hmm.
I think that game has too much going on, and there's way too many little side things that I'm just like, do I really want to do rebel camps and rebel outposts?
Oh yes,
ignore the outposts because I only want to do the camps because I want to get the good bow, and just like I'm just ignoring a lot of stuff because a lot of it's just tedious.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like Far Cry.
I mean, it's like ridiculous. A lot of games. It's like a lot of games these days. There's too much side content that distracts you from the actual kind of potential linear aspect of the game.
I don't mind it too much, but when you have a story where they're just drilling your head that we got to go fast, we got to get it done, we got to do this, and then you have like all this other stuff, you're like, hey, I gotta go save the world, but I'm gonna go check out this cave over here.
But hold on, this cave has this shiny thing that I go look at.
I'm gonna go build this guy an arm. I'm gonna go do this contract over here. Hey, look, there's some ruins I'm gonna check out. Like, it just feels weird. That's why I also like Miles Morales. They gave like lulls in the story, so then you could feel like you can go do things.
Oh my god, that is a funny way to look at Forbidden West. All right, we're on the clock. The world's gonna end. We got 20 days left. But first, I gotta cook this meal for this guy over here on the other side of the mountain. He really needs it, bro.
Like, there's not that many things. Like, even after this last mission, is like, oh yeah, we got this. I have some time. Like, no, you don't. You just told a bunch of people to meet because we're about to go do our final push to beat the aliens that want to destroy the world. Like, what? No, I don't got time. It just doesn't really seem to make sense story wise. But in Miles Morales, there's like lows, like, oh, I gotta wait for this person to do that, and then I can continue on, or I need this to happen, so figure out like. Spider-Man also did that, where there are some things like, oh, Mary Jane's going to go investigate. I got to see what happens here. So that gives you a little lull in the story that you can, hey, I can go around saving small crimes because, yeah, I know I got to save the city, but I'm at a little stopping point that I need some information. I got to wait a little bit. So I just think this needed a little bit of that, but it doesn't. So just I feel weird just putzing around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just posted something in the direct message chat that perfectly sums up what you guys just said about all the side quests. Just with Link in Zelda going around. It's like all of Hyrule's burning around him, but he's like, oh, great, I just got this thing so I can get a better shield. It's hilarious.
Hold on, Ganondorf. I got this cave I forgot to visit. I know you're burning down the world right now, but time out.
Can you keep the fires just burning in those areas only? Don't let it spread. Just keep it right there.
That would be great. Well, we're going to talk about one side mission in one game for our main topic. Never mentioned it, but you know what? I'll play the music and we'll transition into that one.
Hey, I didn't get to talk about my games.
All right, Colin.
I talked about my trip, but I didn't talk about any of the games I'm playing.
What are you playing?
Well, me and my nephews beat the story mode of Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. And that was a lot of fun.
Was it too
They'll
short?
probably want to play it again.
Did he feel like he got his money's worth?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, we got to unlock Casey Jones, so that was a fun little thing. And I got further in God of War 2018. I'm a couple of hours past the part where Kratos reveals he's a god to Atreus.
Yep.
And Atreus is getting a bit of a swelled head as a result.
Very
and
much
since
so.
then, I've been clearing out some side quests. Been fighting the Valkyrie boss fights. Those are a real challenge. But not unbeatable at this point. I also did some of the Muspelheim trials. Those are fun. And then I got a copy of Advance Wars Reboot on Switch.
Oh, yeah, that did come out.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that.
Haven't been playing a shit ton of it, but I am past the tutorial missions, and it's still just as fun as the original. It's basically the original with better graphics and remixed music tracks.
Right.
So you're getting what you pay for. And I've also been making my way through Puyo Puyo Tetris when I'm bored.
Oh, that game gets so hard later.
Yeah, I'm already getting to the more challenging bits. It's like I'm already a master of Tetris, but Puyo Puyo is already kicking my ass. I mean, maybe if I'd played more Dr. Mario as a kid, I'd be better, but I didn't, so here I am. And of course, I've still been playing more Returnal.
Still at it. Okay. I mean, don't take those the wrong way, but compare because Joey and I thought the game was fucking hard. I know you're better at games than us, but I'm still shocked you're kind of still playing that.
Well, there's a lot of stuff to unlock in there, a lot of story to get through. I mean, I've made it to the third phase of like the big challenge tower, and that in and of itself has some interesting story lore involving the main character and her mother as a result of a car accident and all the different shit they went through after that with like the mom's recovery. There's a whole lot of drama that happens between them because the mom is being very demanding. Take, but very little give, if you catch my drift.
Yep.
And yeah, I made it to the third phase, but I'm a little spent on that, so I'm getting back to the main story now. And for whatever reason, as soon as I tried the main story again, it was a million times harder than I remembered. But I guess I just have to get back into the rhythm of it. But I'm still interested. I still want to play it through to the end. So you'll be hearing more later in future casts.
Good for you. I don't think the story was worth the pain.
It's kind of funny. The game itself actually says something similar to you. Like when in the challenge tower, you're able to like lay down on like this hospital gurney, and then you find yourself, you fall asleep and then wake up in like the hospital where the main character's mother was hospitalized. And one of the posters on the walls, it's like supposed to be about addiction, but it says, "Why would you keep coming back to something that hurts you?"
Yeah, they get it.
And I see that, I'm like, good question. And yet I'm still doing it. But it's like I see like how I can beat it. I just need to build up my skill to the point that I can make it happen. So that's really what keeps me going.
It sounds like a heavy grind of a game once you get to a point.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's like with all the different weapons, you're still upgrading all the different like features they have.
Do you start your run in the first area every time, or do you just skip ahead to where you need to be? Like, do you rush to the second area, then rush to the third area, or do you just play through the first area to get geared up and then move on?
Yeah, I play through to get geared up. Although,
yeah, that's because runs started getting too long for me when I started doing that.
Oh yeah, well,
yeah, because roguelikes generally you get so superpowered that you can just go immediately to the next section.
Nah, yeah. Well, in this case, I'm like it's like right after the third boss, so things have more or less reset in a way. So I kind of have to do the whole first area again, but in this case, things look a lot different because all the different vegetation and decay of the different structures has changed the layout somewhat, and all the enemies are stronger.
It reminds me of what is it, Ghosts and Goblins on the NES, where you beat the game once and then it flips you back and you have to do it a second time.
I never thought of it like that. Yeah, it is kind of like that now that I think about it. That's interesting. Yeah. It's got me thinking one of these days, maybe one of my future topics should be genre origins. And the one I'm thinking for at least one of them is rogue. Because that's where roguelikes originated from. Yeah,
that's true. Speaking of that, this is going to be a little bit further away since this is my theme pick today, but the next time I have a theme pick, I actually got a request from a listener of ours about a fighting game spin-off episode.
Interesting.
So, he gave me a bunch of games to choose from, so I'm going to just oblige that. It makes it easier for me to pick a theme next time.
Sounds interesting.
Figured why not?
Very interesting.
All right. Can I play the music now? Let's talk about these two games.
Sure thing.
Okay. All right, everybody. Get my timestamp here. Went a little bit longer than usual, but I think that's okay. It has been a month after all. So, I was looking for kind of more action-adventure games to play for this episode. I was in a mood for these kind of games. It is besides platformers, this is my favorite genre of video games, so action-adventure is the way I wanted to go, and it just so happens the two games I chose were both published by Eidos Interactive. Okay? We've definitely experienced them a number of times before. I have I wouldn't say nostalgia with this publisher, but they tend to have good developers along with them. But the first game I chose was Tomb Raider 3, Adventures of Lara Croft. Came out in 1998. developed by Core Design. I believe this was the same time when Crystal Dynamics was starting to take over the license to Tomb Raider. I believe that's right. So we've played Tomb Raider before on this podcast. We've played we've played some bad ones. We've played the originals. This is kind of in between that period where they have their formula down. They've kind of improved on a lot of the mechanics, and in this particular one, Tomb Raider 3, it's an upgraded engine than the first two. Okay?
Okay.
This Tomb Raider 3 was more puzzle-solving oriented, more than kind of the, I guess, shooter action, even though I that's what it claims. I think it was just more the same. The layouts required more puzzles, more along the block moving side, and kind of look around the levels and see where you could potentially climb and get various keys and whatnot. I guess because the new engine, they were able to upgrade a lot of the texturing, because in the first two games, I think we all agree the textures are kind of the more difficult parts of the game, because you can't really figure out where to go, what to grab, that kind of thing, because everything's like, polygonal.
It's not fully fixed, because there's like sometimes the muddy water, it looks like regular mud, so you're walking and then all of a sudden you're underwater.
Yeah, I had trouble with that in the first level.
But Crystal Dynamics didn't take over until after their failed game, so Crystal Dynamics took over 2006.
Oh, okay, so it was way later. Oh, that explains that. Okay,
Angels of Darkness killed Core Design.
Yeah, that explains the Crystal Dynamics like relaunch of the first couple of games on like PSP and stuff. Okay. Well, anyways, still Eidos Interactive nonetheless. Okay. What did everyone think of Tomb Raider 3?
Yeah, for me, it felt a lot like the way Tomb Raider 2 did compared to the first game. Basically, the first game, but improved somewhat, at least in the graphical sense, and more just more puzzles, more secrets. I didn't play a whole lot of this, maybe like halfway through the first level, because I got totally lost, and I was really short on time during the intervening time.
So I almost beat the whole game. I almost beat both of them, considering we had a month to do it, and I was really into these two games. But I must ask you guys the question, as we do with many sequels here, did enough change to warrant... I guess I keep saying price of admission, but we kind of always have this perspective of a sequel doing enough different to kind of warrant being a sequel in the first place? Or do you see this as kind of just a cash grab, this franchise is good? That's it.
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. Because if you read about the development, they wanted 2 years to fully develop this game, because they were hoping this would be the next step in Tomb Raider.
Yep.
But the publishers didn't want that, so they forced it to be another year. So I guess it's a little bit of both. I still think it did slightly enough to be okay, and then I think this is where the downfall, because the next couple games aren't nearly good enough or not done enough to do what I guess the first couple did.
So I might say something a little bit more, I don't want to say controversial, it's fucking Tomb Raider, but I think this was the peak of this generation.
Yeah, it definitely went downhill after this.
So, because in this game in particular, why I really enjoyed this more than the first two was the much more expanded story. They really went heavy into script dialogue and setting up the scenes and really making everything they could for the story to be expansive, and then for Lara to be a more unique character, and even the enemies too. I mean, I got a lot of Resident Evil-esque vibes playing this game.
The first level made me think of Indiana Jones with all the boulders that were
Well,
jumping, chasing me.
Those were the classics that kind of Tomb Raider and Crash Bandicoot and stuff of the PlayStation started to become known for, was stuff like that. Indiana Jones, yes. But as you play further, especially when you get to like Nevada and Antarctica, everything starts becoming like T-virusy and really creepy. And you start coming across enemies that are very wacky and zombie-like. I thought that was a big breakthrough for me playing the game. I thought every time I got to a new region to explore, and second saying is Lara's constantly switching like outfits through each region was a real cool touch.
Yeah, really but I think I like the Antarctic one only because I think she actually looks like a normal human in that outfit.
Yes.
Because in the first outfit, I swear they made her hips or her waist smaller in this game. It's like non-existent. And then when you get to the stealth outfit that she's wearing, it's like it doesn't even exist. She's like 2 triangles touched together. It was ridiculous.
Look, Joey, my taste in women involving 2 triangles, okay?
So then I bet you really like the crawling animation they had.
Oh man, those triangles. I couldn't contain myself. When I go up to women, I just like, you know what? I'd be way more into you if you looked closer to a triangle.
You got too many curves. I need straight, jagged corners.
I need those hip bones just 90 degrees out. Let's go. Oh boy. God. Be more acute. You're too obtuse. God. Okay. Good variety of weapons. We got like Uzis and MP5s and stuff. They definitely went more into the wackiness there, which I thought was fun. Now, Colin, you mentioned kind of didn't know where to go. Absolutely agree. This game got absurd in what qualifies as what you can grab onto, what you can latch onto, what you can climb, and then, like, for example, there's like grading in levels that you can jump and kind of scale, but you can't on sidewalls, even though they're the exact same texture.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to, unfortunately, I say this is a limitation of the PS1, is unfortunately you're going to have to learn just the controlled rules the game must abide by, where this texture, you can't do it under these circumstances, but you can under another, which is counterintuitive to just what we know these days. I mean, shit, I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom, you can climb on everything, and it's almost to the point of annoyance. I just want to push you. Stop climbing it. So yeah, I do agree. I did have to resort to a basic like game walkthrough a lot of times because I just could not see where to go next. And I know that's a concept of exploration and trial and error and seeing what you can jump to and what you can't. But when death is too easy falling off things, and there's certainly levels where you're stripped of your guns and you have to go through keys, and it's too much. It was too much. But who's to say if they didn't do it that way, then it would have been too linear and easy, and that would have lost kind of the interest of exploration. I think it's a double-edged sword there that they had to play with.
Yeah, I was playing the PC version on GOG, so maybe I had a different experience from you guys. I don't know if does the PS1 have like a save anywhere function?
You can kind of do that in all the PlayStation games for Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
That's the only way Angel of Darkness was beatable, was the save anywhere function.
Yeah, I think the main difference between the PC and the PS1 version was lighting. I think the PC version was way brighter than the PS1.
Yeah. There was quite a few areas where I had to really stock up on flares because it was just so dark. And so it was very cumbersome.
Yeah, the darkness, I had to turn up the gamma just to be able to see certain things because Where I really got stuck in level 1 was at one point where you're supposed to find a certain lever to open up a certain door, and it was like right on the side of this one little archway that you go through. So I completely missed it the first time around. It was only after watching a walkthrough on YouTube that I actually realized it was there, so that was kind of annoying.
I watched a playthrough of some guy that it looked very borderline like a toss run because his movements were just so perfect at some points. Like he just had every turn down amazingly. I was like, wow, he beat the first level in a very quick time, and it took me 30 minutes just to figure out that I was lost.
Yeah, the trick. So this might sound cheating, but one of the tricks I've learned with playing these old Tomb Raider games is I'll watch someone good play the game, so they essentially tell me where to go, and then the challenge is me trying to even execute it. And I'm like, okay, that's good enough for me.
About Adam and monkeys and whatnot, it was crazy.
Yeah, that was pretty much me and my siblings' experience with Tomb Raider 1 and 2 growing up. We played the shit out of it every time we had computer time, and after a while we knew where everything was. We never did beat any of the games, but we still played the hell out of them.
Yeah, so more expansive story. This, I think, was the first like real story-esque beginning to how future Tomb Raider games were going to be made and how they tried. Obviously, Angel of Darkness is a totally different animal, and it tanked the company, as Joey said at the start. But with I still need to play Tomb Raider 4, which is, I think, Revelations, and then see how that kind of compares to my thoughts to the newer trilogy, which I still vastly enjoyed. I love those Tomb Raider games. I'm passing this game. I'm pretty satisfied with it.
Yeah,
Definitely on the
Yeah,
higher
I'll
end.
pass it.
Okay. Our second game was Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. Published by Eidos Interactive, developed by Crystal Dynamics. Came out on the PlayStation in August 99, so less than a year later than Tomb Raider 3. And then it was ported to the Dreamcast about 6 months after that in 2000. This was super interesting to play. It's kind of a, I don't want to say spin-off of the Blood Omen series. But
Pretty sure it's a sequel.
Is it a true sequel to Blood Omen, or is it a like spin-off of Blood Omen?
Pretty sure it's a sequel to Blood Omen: Legacy of Kain.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, that makes sense. So this game has an interesting history. The first off is if you look up best of PS1 lists, you'll be sure to find this game at some point on those lists. Same thing with Dreamcast. Where it gets kind of tricky is as I played through the game more, I started to notice like game mechanics just not coming anymore. Felt like game mechanics were taken out, and I felt like entire sections of the game were just scrapped. And sure enough, the ending of the game was pretty much fragmented. And there were indeed a lot of like fighting mechanics that were just not put in the game. And a lot of that had to do with a lawsuit that they were going through. And I believe the lawsuit functioned between someone that claimed that they ripped off gameplay mechanics and story elements and a bunch of nonsense that like kind of wouldn't even come up in the modern era. So I found that interesting. And what ended up happening was if you ever play like Soul Reaver 2, apparently, which came out on the PS2, a lot of those ended up just being in that game. So you'll get what you missed out in this one in the sequel. So reason to check out the sequel, as far as I'm concerned. This also has a very kind of expanded story, much like how I thought of Tomb Raider 3. The script and dialogue in this was even more so. what it was capable, what I thought was capable of back then. It's a game that features around what's his name, Raziel, and Kain is an asshole and takes his wings, and Raziel is reincarnated for revenge by like an elder god, essentially. Be my soul reaver, he says. Very. Who does the voice acting for that dude? It sounds so familiar. Anybody know?
I don't know.
No idea.
Okay. So you essentially fight vampires more or less throughout the game, and you impale them. You throw them in the sun. A lot of cool, just kind of hack and slash elements to it, and a lot of block puzzles. Very good. I don't have much like bad to say about it. It was very responsive with the controls, much more than Tomb Raider. And it reminded me weirdly of like Jak and Daxter with how it kind of played, and maybe it wouldn't shock me if Jak and Daxter took a lot from this game and just kind of the movement and jumping mechanics kind of deal, because Raziel has a kind of jump floating mechanic that works out really well, makes a lot of these things easier and less annoying that you would have to, in comparison to Tomb Raider, you would have to struggle with.
Yeah, the high jump mechanics reminded me a lot of Jak and Daxter. So, yeah, you just reminded me of that.
And probably the most interesting part of the game, which I was not expecting how they'd pull off. I played this on the Dreamcast, by the way, just to be different. And supposedly it's the superior version just because it came out later. But anyways, was the seemingly just smoothness of transitioning between kind of the frozen world and the regular world, where time. So you get to an element and it switches between two phases of the world. I guess that's the best way I can describe it right now. And time is frozen. Things are kind of warped a little bit, and it really brings a different element to how this game plays and how you interact with everything. I was totally blown away with that, especially back in 99, 2000 of all times. And we were talking about side missions earlier. There's a whole area called like the Lighthouse with strong-ass vampires, but they're few and far between. And it's a whole side area of essentially unlocking kind of the mystery of the lighthouse. And it's a big puzzle. I played that whole thing. I thought that was cool as shit. That's what I'm talking about, a good side mission. You stumble across it, basically, and I got so much satisfaction about that. I highly recommend that section. Very glad I came across that, and I got so close to beating this game, and that's when I noticed kind of fragments of the end game were happening. I was like, I don't know, it seems a lot of things start to seem off the longer you play, and that's why. Okay, I've gushed about this game long enough.
Well,
what'd you guys think?
I found the voice actor, and it should be no coincidence that you know him. Some of his notable voice acting is Drew Pickles and Chaz Finster in Rugrats, so he's the parents. He was Bruce Banner in The Incredible Hulk from 82, 83. He was on G.I. Joe. He was Blowtorch, Clutch, Duke, Major Blood, Scrap Iron.
Okay, so I've seen a lot of things with this guy. Okay. All right.
He's done. And he's Lex Luthor for one of the Supermans. He's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He was also Judge Frollo in Hunchback of Notre Dame. His name is Tony J.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Cool. All right, Joey, what'd you think?
I liked it. Although I thought the guy looked like a fly more than a vampire. But I thought the game was fun. It was a little dark. I think the colors could have been a little better. The story was interesting, but I liked it.
What'd you think of like the different powers and stuff that he had?
I thought it was interesting. I really like the spear. I like throwing it at people.
You could throw it, you could impale it. That was so, like, I was not expecting I could just take things off walls and then use them as weapons.
And I really like the puzzles where the blocks you just had to flip. Sometimes you could lift it up on ledges. I like that it was more
Yeah,
than
I like
just
that.
sliding.
Yes.
So that I liked a lot.
Did it surprise you that this game was in like 99 and they were able to pull those kinds of things off?
Yeah, I didn't think any games did that early. I mean, I would have liked this series to continue. Maybe I'll check out the next one, the last one in the series. But yeah, I thought it was kind of weird how he ate the souls. Like, he was just pulling his, I guess, bandana covering away, but it looked more of like he was stretching his mouth out to absorb everything.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, he didn't have a jaw.
Don't need no jaw. Soul Reaver. Okay. Colin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I tried getting this off of GOG, but for whatever reason, it's currently unavailable. It just says coming soon. And I tried Steam, same deal. Sounds like the developers are trying to like revamp a few things.
Oh,
So
yeah, maybe.
I was stuck with YouTube videos, but what I saw was pretty cool. I mean, the whole switching between worlds thing was an interesting mechanic. The only other game from before it I can think of that did similar was Link to the Past. It's like going between light and dark worlds.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. In 2022, Square Enix sold the rights to Legacy of Kain to Embracer Group, who expressed interest in developing a sequel, and they want to do remasters and remakes. So,
Oh, sweet. So that explains like the coming soon part.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's really cool because I think the best compliment, one of the best compliments I can give a game is after playing it, it's going, I want to play the sequel. I want more. I want to know what they improved upon. And I think that's a good indication that the first one was successful in my mind.
Yeah, for sure.
interesting. Coffee Stains Holding is a subsidiary of this company that bought it, and I like Coffee Stain, so we'll see who they give to develop it.
What have they
Maybe
done?
they can make some good games. Goat Simulator.
Oh, okay.
Satisfactory.
Gotcha.
I mean, different parts of it. Some of them are made by different companies that they publish, and some are actually published by them. It's a weird umbrella with weird naming, but there's multiple different Coffee Stains that have developed different things.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm reading up on this message board from like 2005, and they were talking about this game and how there were even just straight up boss fights taken out and put in the sequel.
Huh.
So yeah,
Interesting.
it went through a lot of kind of struggles. Apparently, this lawsuit hit them really hard, and it even says the gameplay is similar to Tomb Raider, but they used the Gex game engine, which is why it was able to traverse way easier and way smoother. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was shocked how just smooth and just easy, I guess. Like, I could just pick it up and play it. While in Tomb Raider, it's definitely a struggle with lining up jumps, figuring out the right timing, and this was just so much smoother to play. And I guess that's why the hack and slash element is there to kind of give you that interactive in between. While in Tomb Raider, the interactive in between is literally just the platforming and jumping around.
Yeah. When I was watching all the combat gameplay seemed a little bit tedious and repetitive, which would explain why the guy playing it skipped over a lot of the enemies.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely more hack and slash than the adventure part, but as Joey said, the block puzzles I think was done so well that it made up for a lot of its kind of drawbacks.
Yeah, the block puzzles were a big selling point for me. I mean, I haven't seen any other game with block puzzles where you could like lift it up onto different platforms.
Even just like pushing them in half to kind of fill in the fill in other gaps. I was like, when I first pushed a 2-block thing over and then jumped on a ledge, I was like, I don't know what to do, and it took me a few minutes, and then it's like, oh, I can push the top down, and that, oh, I didn't know I could. I didn't know that was even a thing that was possible, because it still looked like it was one. I mean, there was some fucking block puzzles in Tomb Raider where you couldn't even like tell the texture difference between the wall and what you needed to push. It just looked like another part of the cliff. You're like, ugh.
Yeah, you have to have a sharp eye for that sort of thing. It's the same in the first 2 games.
Well, I thought Tomb Raider 3 was a bit harder because they tried so much texture upgrades that it kind of messed with other things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Music was good. I thought that was... apparently the Dreamcast version has a higher frame rate. Yeah. There's a lot of good things to say about Soul Reaver here. I'm extremely satisfied with it, and I want to play the sequel.
Me too. Of course, I'd like to be able to play the original game first.
Well, you have a PS2. Just buy the disc. Probably what, $30, I imagine.
I doubt it.
Let's see here. How much is Soul Reaver going for these days? As I go to pricecharting.com. Soul Reaver.
It actually looks pretty cheap.
Less than $20.
Huh. Good to know. Perhaps when I'm at the retro game store next time, I'll look for a copy.
Yeah, if you get the greatest hits version, it'll cost you possibly less than 10.
We shall see.
How much does a Dreamcast version go for? Less than 20. Okay. I think that's absolutely worth it for a game of this quality.
For sure.
Easy pass. For me.
Yep.
Yeah, pass.
Yeah, pass.
Okay. 2 games were Tomb Raider 3 and Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. Both on the PS1, basically, but I played Dreamcast. Joey, why don't you go first? Favorite, least favorite, and your tiers.
I'd probably give Kain the nod for favorite. I'm going to give them both Bs. I think they're both solid. They do some things right, but I don't think they're groundbreaking.
I think they're groundbreaking for the time. Well, Tomb Raider 3 was just going off predecessors, but I don't know. I think with the story elements and gameplay, I think it was a huge upgrade of the era.
I think it was upgrade, but I just don't think it was good enough for an A.
Okay.
Maybe
Fair
if
enough.
they had 2 years to fully develop it the way they wanted it could be, and maybe if Kain didn't have the missing features, it was complete. But solid Bs for both.
Colin, how about yourself?
Yeah, I give Tomb Raider a B and Soul Reaver, I guess, a low A. And obviously, Soul Reaver is my favorite.
Yeah, this might come as a surprise, but I honestly think Soul Reaver is the better game. So I'm kind of low A with Colin there. But I enjoyed, because I just like Tomb Raider so much, I enjoyed Tomb Raider more. So that's my own like bias coming in, but I'm still giving it a B. So I enjoyed a game more, but I admit that I think Soul Reaver's the better game of the two. So forgive me, people.
Yeah, I did the same thing in the past with Jazz Jackrabbit.
Yeah. Okay. Colin, you have the next theme pick. What is it?
It is Light and Darkness.
Ooh.
Games where, as the title says, you deal with the dichotomy between light and dark.
All right. There you go. That is another episode. Guys, see you next time.
Bye.
Bye now.